All right, so we'll get started. Hi, thanks for joining us today. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Ken Wiafe, and I'm a product manager here at CMiC. We are super excited to be sharing the new CMiC Field R12 mobile app with you. Our team put in a lot of work over the last year to make this happen. So we've come a long way since Mobile Field, which was introduced back in 2015. We've applied customer feedback and lessons learned over the years to provide an app that will deliver an exceptional user experience, elevated performance, and enhanced stability. So for those that have worked with Mobile Field in the past, I sincerely hope that you notice this throughout the presentation. And for those that are new here, welcome. I'm sure that you'll like what you'll see. So for the next 30 to 45 minutes, we'll be going over a few topics. I'll start off by sharing some general information and provide a high-level view of Field R12. From there, I'll highlight what's new and spend some time talking about the app's core features. To close, I'll talk about our roadmap and then what's coming next, what you'll need to get started, and then we'll end off with a Q&A section. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask them in the chat section. We'll get those answered for you if possible. And then lastly, I'll be joined by our Director of Product Management, Steve Cangiano. With that being said, let's get started. So before we dive into the app, I think it'll be helpful to provide some background information, especially for those who haven't used our app in the past. Field R12 was created to be an extension of everything that happens in project management on the web. So the value add is having the ability to work on projects in the field on a mobile device, and then not be restricted to having an internet connection. All users have the same credentials and security carried over to the app, and you have full flexibility to control what users see and what users do. So for example, this means you can prevent anyone with a specific project role from viewing drawings, and you can prevent users from publishing any annotations if desired. We've made a significant amount of changes with CMiC Field R12. One of the biggest enhancements you'll find is the consistent experience across all Apple and Android devices. And the same is true whether you're using a phone or a tablet or viewing the app in portrait or landscape mode. All right, so the first thing you're going to notice about Field is how fast it is. CMiC Field R12 is dramatically faster compared to Mobile Field, and we are confident that this will increase your productivity while using the app. So the screen on the left is Mobile Field if you haven't seen it before. After logging in, it could take some time for a project to load, especially if it contains a lot of data. So the process of starting the app, entering your credentials, loading your project, and then creating an RFI is 53% faster in Field R12. So let's take a closer look at this in action. All right, so here's Field R12. I'll start by entering my credentials, and then I'll select the login button. So from here, I'm instantly taken to the homepage screen, which displays the project photo, code, address, and description. Without having to wait for data to load, I can jump straight into a feature. And to do that, I'll select the menu button at the top left and then select Journals. And then all of my records are here, and I can start tracking my activities. To switch projects, I'll select the menu button again, and then I'll tap on the area where the project name is displayed. I have the option of searching for any project. Let's say I'll search for Apple. Or I can select a project that I've worked with in the past. So in this case, I'll select the JW Marriott project. So before I transition into other features like RFIs, I want to share some more information about the menu. So user information is displayed at the top, where you can also modify app settings and log out. Underneath that section is where all of the app's features are. So what the user sees will depend on their project and their security settings. The numbers you see to the right indicate how many records are within each feature. So in this case, there are 37 contacts, and then there are 237 drawing sheets. Okay, so the first core feature that I'd like to highlight for you all is RFIs. So we've redesigned this feature to ensure that it is intuitive to view, create, and modify your records. As seen in this screenshot, the RFI log is placed to the left, and then the record detail is to the right. In terms of the overall layout, we wanted to find the right balance between a clean interface and then presenting as much information to the user as possible. So without having to scroll down, the user has access to 9 RFIs in the screenshot, whereas in mobile field, the user would only see 6 RFIs. So it's a subtle difference, but when we think about quickly finding the records you want to work with, everything counts. And over time, we're going to look at more ways to make this experience even better. So here is the RFI feature. And as mentioned before, you have your records to the left, and then you have your record detail to the right of the screen. To change the current sorting option, I'll select where the creation date label is, and these are my options. And the arrow lets you know if records are displayed in ascending or descending order. To search for RFIs, I'll select on the icon on the top right. I'll begin typing, and then you'll start to see results appear. If I successfully find the RFI I'm looking for, I can select it here and then begin to work with it. You can also find RFIs by using the filter feature. So selecting status leads to this screen, and let's say I'll select approved. So now let's take a look at the record detail itself. All of the fields are responsive, and then you'll notice that data loads really fast. We've implemented modern components like the calendar tool and enhanced the process of adding contacts. I'll scroll down further, and I'd like to touch on the related objects feature. So in mobile field, this was restricted to drawings, but in field R12, we're opening this up to other features. So I'll tap on the RFI option and then select an RFI record. Once I'm happy with it, I'm taken back to the detail screen and then confirm that a relation was made. The last feature that I'd like to highlight here is notes. I'll select the field and begin typing. Once I'm done, I'll hit send, and then the note is instantly created. If I want to directly reply to a note, I can do that by swiping right. And then as you're typing, you'll see the reference note. And then deleting is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is swipe to the right. Once I'm done working with the RFI, I can send an IO email out, or I can email a report. I can also select the save button or submit button to lock in my changes. All right, so next core feature is documents. So we've made a lot of enhancements towards the documents feature. If you've used mobile field in the past, one thing to keep in mind is we've integrated the photo log into the documents feature, which creates a faster workflow. The major focus for us was to find ways to increase the speed of adding documents to a project. So there are no limits when it comes to uploading multiple photos via the camera or photos already saved to your device. Okay, so here's the document feature in Field R12. Before navigating to a folder, users can search for any document if they know what they're looking for. After selecting the search button and entering a keyword, all results are listed here, and I can open that document right away. You can mark it up and you can create new revisions in this viewer. So I'll go back and then I'm going to scroll down to the progress photo folder. And as you expect, all of your documents are placed in here and are sorted by their name. In Field R12, we've introduced a new feature where documents can also be grouped by date. So if documents were added today, you'll see that as an option. You'll also find groupings by month and then by year. So it'll be much easier to find documents with this method. Next, let's look at how you add documents. You can add them through your camera, or you can add documents directly from your device. I'll select the device library, and here are all of the photos I've taken on my iPad. I'll select a few of them, and then I'll select the Done button. At this point, I can hit the Save button and edit each individual document afterwards, or I can edit them all at once. If I want to change folders, I can do that here, and then I can add more detail to the remaining fields. Alrighty, so the next core feature that I would love to share is drawings. So a major benefit which speaks to the value of being a CMiC customer is the fact that you have all of your information in one place. You can create relations between the features we've already discussed, such as RFIs and drawings. Having everything in one place, everything readily available, makes life so much easier. We've incorporated a lot of feedback to make this feature as powerful as possible. All right, so this is the drawing log where you can instantly access all of your drawing sheets. As you scroll down, more sheets are loaded and you won't run into any limitations. We introduced a new feature within the sheet thumbnails. And if you see an icon beside the drawing sheet number, it means there's a published annotation in that sheet. Of course, you can sort the drawing set in many ways. And then you can also switch the view depending on what suits your needs. To filter, I'll select the search button, and users can filter the set by trade, and they can filter by revision. So now this is where Field R12 is on another level. So now you can keyword search and find results within a sheet number or name, and you can also search within the sheet. So here are all of the results. I'll select drawing sheet A0.11, and when it opens, all of the results will be highlighted for me. Cool. So here's the drawing sheet viewer. Swiping in different directions leads to different results. By swiping up, I can view earlier versions of the drawing sheet. I can also accomplish this by selecting the revision button. I can view other drawing sheets by swiping left and to the right, and you'll find that the sheets are rendered really quickly. In no time, all of your annotations and markups will be presented to you. To search within the drawing sheet, I can select the search button at the top right. The filter button enables me to view annotations by their status, what they're linked to, and even by who created them. I can browse the sheets that I've viewed in the past. And I can also compare sheets and share them if needed. Okay, so now let's take a look at the annotation toolbar. I'll zoom into an area of the sheet, and then I'll select the shape tool. I'll tap and drag to create a square, and once I'm finished, I'm presented with a menu. I'll be able to link, publish, edit, or remove the annotation. Let's link this annotation to an existing RFI. I'll select RFI 001 and then receive confirmation that it was linked. So now when I select the annotation, I can instantly view the RFI by selecting the label. So this is just one example of how powerful our drawings feature is. So we've designed the punch list feature to allow for the quick entry of punch list items. And there are basically two ways you can create them, either through the punch list feature itself or directly on a drawing sheet. So let's walk through both options within the app. So I'll start off with the drawings workflow with the assumption that these items will be created during your walkthroughs. To create a punch list item, I'm going to select the last button in the annotation toolbar. When you select it, it displays a list of trades. These trades are created in the web and are configured in your local tables. So once you've created your trades, they'll appear in this flyout window. We automatically generate initials based on the name of the trade, but in the future, we intend on allowing users to be able to change the initials directly from the app. So depending on the feedback we receive, we may even consider giving users the ability to create trades directly from the app as well. So let's assume that there's an issue with the paint in this room. I'll select painting, and then the app will prompt me to tap an area of the sheet to drop the pen. So once it's dropped, the flyout menu reappears with everything needed to create the punch list item. The item status is defaulted to draft, and in the description field, it appears that there's a default there as well. And this isn't entirely the case. This is a watermark which displays the trade that you selected. If the user wants to quickly create this item without entering any information, they can go ahead and move forward, but at least there will be some form of description. On the other hand, the user can go ahead and add a description, which would replace that watermark. There are other fields I can decide to fill out, like punch lists. Punch lists act as a grouping where items can fall within them. I'll select demo from this list. I can go ahead and fill out the other fields, or I can decide to hit save and continue creating other pins. So we've implemented a handy feature that works in the background. So the next time I create a punch list item, let's say another painting issue, some information from the last item carries over. This was done to help users save time during the creation process. And of course, you can modify any of the fields to your liking. So I'll take a photo of the issue, and what's really neat is that users can mark up the photo directly from here. So by tapping on the photo thumbnail, the photo opens up within this viewer. I can use any of the tools on the right-hand side and identify where the issue is. I'll hit save, and then I'll also save the punch list item. And that's about it. So I'm going to navigate to the punch list feature and then scroll down to the demo punch list. Here are all of the punch list items that belong to this list, including the ones that I created earlier. I can view this log in two different ways. At the moment, we're looking at the thumbnail view, but by selecting this button at the top right, I can switch it to the list view. There are 5 ways to sort the log. It's currently being sorted by punch list, and I'll switch it to creation date for you to see the changes take place. So what's great about the sorting feature is that the app will remember which option you select. So if I navigate away from this feature and return back to it, the same sorting option is applied. So to search for a punch list item, I'll select the search button on the top right. As I begin typing, results start to appear. I can select any of these thumbnails, which will open up the item's details. Filters are displayed under the search area, and you can apply single filters such as status, and you can add other filters to refine the list. All right, so each thumbnail displays the most recent photo, the name of the item, and its current status. I'll open one of them, which displays the same details we saw in the drawings feature. I'll quickly highlight some of the other areas of this feature that I didn't mention before. So after selecting the punch list field, we see a list of existing punch lists to choose from. Above the list, there's a field where users can create new punch lists. So only users with the appropriate security settings will be able to see this. So I'll tap on the field, I'll type out a name, and then I'll hit the create button. Now when I hit save, this item will belong to the new punch list I created. The last area that I want to touch on is the related objects section. So you can relate this punch list item to other objects, but what's really neat is that I can instantly navigate to a drawing if the item was created there. By selecting the thumbnail, I'm transferred over to the drawing sheet and into the area where the problem was documented. So these are the other features in the app that I couldn't get to for today. We have some updates coming to checklists in the near future, but I wanted to quickly talk about CMiC Assist. With Assist, users will be able to report any bugs or issues they come across directly within the app. So what's great about the tool is you can share screenshots and videos of what you're experiencing. That information comes straight to us, which helps us diagnose the issue and then get it resolved as fast as possible. And by judging by this review in the App Store currently, we're starting to see the benefits of this approach. Our small yet mighty team is putting in a lot of work to make this app the best it can be, which creates the perfect segue into the next slide, our roadmap. So I've spent the duration of this webinar showing you where we are today, but there's a lot to be excited about in terms of where we're going. The Field R12 app was released back in October, and we've released many features since then. Over the next few months, quarters 2 and 3, we will develop what you see here. I'll share more details about the Reviewers banner, action items, and project sync features. All right, so Reviewers banner. We're developing a Reviewers banner feature, which is tied to our Reviewers table feature in the web. Basically, whenever it is your turn as the logged in user to complete a step in a table, you'll see this banner show up. This banner lets anyone in the table, including collaborators, make or enter a response. So more specifically, it gives them the ability to mark, let's say, punch list items as complete or contested. Another item on the roadmap is action items. So a theme that comes up consistently when we receive feedback is having the ability to quickly find records that are addressed to you. Action items was a clear way to solve this in our mobile field app, and I'm happy to report that we've redesigned it to be much more powerful in Field R12. To access your action items, you'll navigate to the home screen. There will be a bell at the top right. Once you select the bell, you'll transition to the action item screen. This is what we see here. So users will be able to quickly view and edit records where they are addressed in the to field. And this can happen all in one place, saving you time from having to navigate from one feature to the next. You can change the log to be sorted by type and by date, and you can easily see how many records are in your responsibility. So when we first released this app late last year, we had to make some decisions with the goal of providing a pleasant user experience. One of those decisions was based on how records could be accessed offline. We developed the app so that anything could be available offline, but the user had to load what they wanted to work with beforehand. We also made a decision to automatically download drawing sets as soon as a project was loaded. We received some feedback from different customers, and we listened and learned about how this could impact their users in different ways. So with that being said, we're moving towards a new implementation, and the feature is called Project Sync. The Project Sync feature will equip users with greater control over, you guessed it, their projects. So let's say you want all of your RFIs to be available when you have no internet connection. This will be possible by navigating to the feature and then selecting the download button in the app bar. And the app bar is the blue bar at the top, right beside the search button on the top right. So the user will be notified that the download is in progress, and they'll be alerted when the process is complete. And that's it. All records will be in sync for as long as the app is online, which will ensure that you're working with the latest and greatest when you're offline. Also, another feature that will be released this quarter. All right, so for anyone interested in getting started, you'll find this slide to be very helpful. So CMiC Field R12 is currently available in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. You'll find it listed as CMiC Field. We are currently on version 1.0.7 with version 1.08 set to be released in a few weeks. So this is an entirely different app, which will require a separate download if you're already using mobile field today. If you're a cloud customer, you can get started right away with the same credentials that you use in the web. If you're an enterprise customer, there are some added things to consider. So first and foremost, this app is for R12 customers only. So if you're still on V10X, you'll still be able to access and use the mobile field app, but you won't be able to use this until you upgrade. Also, please note that you'll need to be on patch 12.2 at the very least with mobile hotfix B52 installed. So please reach out to your account manager if you'd like to make the transition and learn more about our product. And that concludes this portion of the webinar. Thanks again for taking the time to listen to me. If you're already using the app, please do leave a rating and a review in the App Store to let us know how we're doing. And I hope we answered most, if not all of your questions during the presentation, but if not, we'll be happy to answer as much as we can now. So I'm going to welcome Steve Cangiano to join me if you would like to add any comments, or we can also add some answer some questions as well. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Ken. Thanks for presenting all that information. I don't have any specific comments to add right now, but I did see a couple of questions that were entered, and it was kind of an opportunity for us to talk a little bit about some of those features that are going to be coming out in more detail. So I think that we
Sure.
could probably use some of those questions as, a segue into some of those topics.
Sounds great.
So I can, I'll just go ahead and read some of the questions out that I've picked, just so that we can get all those answered. One of the questions was from Karen Olson, is the data available offline? This was something that Ken touched on with Project Sync. I just want to give you guys a little bit of background on how the app works. So today, the app will cache any record that you are currently working with locally. So if you go to the RFI log and it pulls, the first 25, 30 RFI records, all of that information is being cached on the device. So if you lost your connection or went offline anytime, you can still create records, you can still work with anything that you've kind of previously consumed. But what we want to do to take it a step further is to give customers the option to hit that download icon in a feature like RFIs and be able to say, you know what, I don't want to have to remember to go and scroll through all of my RFIs to make sure they're all downloaded. I want to keep all of my RFIs in the project in sync all the time. So if I click that button, that's what it's going to do. It's going to download everything that it has on the project so far, and then it's going to keep that information in sync so that if I do go offline, I know I have all of my RFIs. And what's cool about this implementation is that it's going to be feature by feature, so you don't have to do it for everything. So for example, you might want to have all RFIs and all submittals on your device all the time, but maybe having every daily journal on your device is not necessary. So you don't have to add that weight of keeping all of those journals in sync to your device. So the users can kind of pick and choose what they'd like to keep local on their device. I will mention today, we are automatically downloading the full drawing set. That was one thing that we did from the very beginning, that we were always downloading the drawing set from the beginning when you connected to the project. So that is the one exception to this rule. But the Project Sync is basically going to give you more flexibility, and you're going to be able to pick which features you'd like to have all of the records downloaded on your device for, and it'll keep it in sync in the future. So let's move on to the next question. There's a question from Mark Fernandez. Question is, do you need drawings in order to complete the punch list? The short answer would be no. Punch lists and drawings are complementary to each other, but they are not required. So you can still create a punch list item and not pin it to a drawing. That's not required. Obviously, it's better if you've loaded drawings in your project as well. There's going to be more context in terms of where it is, but there's a standalone punch list, menu item in the app, and you can go there, you can select it, create items, you could run your reports, add attachments, photos, whatever you want. That's all going to be fine. You don't have to use a drawing to do that. It is recommended though. So if you don't, if you're interested, definitely take a look at adding the drawings to the project. So let me go ahead and answer this question from Darby. Do the markups made in the drawings automatically transfer to all devices if made by an admin user? If the drawings have been downloaded in someone's phone, will the new markups show up? Okay, so it's kind of a few parts to this. So when you create an annotation, by default, it is a draft or private annotation. So if you're a regular user and you don't have the publish annotation privilege on your project role, you're going to create the annotation and it will be synced to the database so that if that same user is viewing the drawing sheet on the web, all that's going to be in sync for you as the user. But if you want to share that with other people that may need to see that markup as well, you would need to have the publish privilege on the project role. And when you publish it, it's going to become available to all users on all devices. And every time that we are navigating to the drawing sheet, we're going to the server and we're getting fresh data from the user. So if the user was offline and you created a new annotation, it wouldn't be until they went back online that they would get that annotation. But as soon as they went online, they're going to get that annotation, and it's part of the kind of lazy loading improvement that we made to the app. So all the user's doing is just opening that drawing, and every time we're just checking to see if there's any new published annotations that they need, and we're going ahead and displaying those on the screen. So that's hopefully answers that question, Darby, about how annotations work. Okay, so let me, there's a question from BJ. He said, maybe I missed this on the roadmap. Is fieldwork directives on the roadmap sometime soon? Our superintendents would love this. So BJ, what we've been recommending, and is our recommended process moving forward, is that our customers use the issue record for fieldwork directives. We found it's worked really, really well. You can have a custom type for fieldwork directives on the issue program, and it essentially carries all of the same features that you would have in the fieldwork directive program, but we get to avoid having to spend development time creating a whole separate module that kind of does the same thing that issues does. And I think if we had designed the system today from the very, very beginning, we probably would have taken a page out of, well, the plan grid is a good example of this, whereas plan grid has issues, and that's it. And issues are used for safety, QA/QC, punch list items, fieldwork directives. It's all driven by the type. So we're kind of trying to follow in a similar way, in a similar fashion, so that we can kind of consolidate the complexity of some of our applications and use the issues program for fieldwork directives. And there's a few examples of customers we've worked with in the past that's worked out really well for them. Okay, let me just pick another one here. So there was a question from Jamie. It says, the punch list items won't come up on my device homepage. It's likely related to security, Jamie. So I would recommend go to assist.cmicglobal.com and type in CMiC field R12 security, I believe is probably the best search term. And that's going to pull up an article that we wrote that shows all of the different security flags that are needed to be turned on your security role and project role for that to show up. And I'm just kind of doing a shameless plug for CMiC Assist in that way. Anytime you have some kind of a problem like that, where I can't get trades to show up when I'm in the drawing management tool, there's usually an article about that, and CMiC Assist has a really nice searching feature. Just put a couple of keywords in there and you usually are able to find an article that will answer your question. So highly recommend taking a look at that. So let me just find another one here.
Hey Steve,
yeah,
there is a question from Hugo Hernandez. That's about the punch list. So his question is,
oh yes, I was going to do to that. Yes. Thank you for reminding me, Nitin.
No problem.
So this question is from Hugo Hernandez, and he says that as punch list items are resolved, the pins disappear. So right now they do not disappear, but we are adding more and more filter options for annotations inside of drawing management. So today there's a filter icon on the top right-hand corner of the screen, and you can filter out a lot of different types of annotations. So you can say, I only want to see annotations linked to RFIs, or I only want to see annotations that are linked to punch list items, or maybe I don't want to see annotations linked to punch list items. And that filter tool is our solution to handle cases where you might have a very busy drawing and you want to narrow down which annotations you want to focus on. So using those filters will be a really handy tool. Now, I don't believe that we have an option to filter annotations by punch list item status. That is something that we've discussed, and I say it's safe to assume that will be something we will build. Right now, I believe we have it by responsibility and who created them are the filters that we have for punch list item annotation. So I think you should be able to work around any potential cluttering of the drawing using those filters today, but we do plan to add more filters where you can filter it by the status of the record in addition to just what type of record it's linked to. There's a question from Walter. Will potential change items be programmed into Field R12 Mobile? And if so, when do you anticipate this happening? It's a great question, Walter, and it's something that is kind of been on our, I'll say, kind of short to medium term roadmap for a little while. Anybody that's spent some time with our PCI program knows that it's extremely powerful, but there's definitely some complexity into implementing it correctly. And if we implemented the PCI feature in mobile, I'd want to do a little bit of a more complete job than we did when we worked on the first app. And in the first app, CMiC Field or Mobile Field, we had a PCI program, but you could only really view the PCI record and you could create a header. And I think that there's some really interesting options for creating like a fieldwork directive, from an issue screen, or creating a potential change order that you could then start tracking time for extra work. There's a lot of customers that want to improve like their T&M tag workflows, and I think being able to create a detailed PCI from the app, I think would be necessary to really harness the power of using PCIs and CMiC from the field. So it is something that we are committing to build. I can definitely say that we will add PCIs to the mobile app. I can't comment on a timeline right now, but it is something that we'll communicate in the future. If it's something that you support, I highly recommend voting for this suggestion in user voice. It helps us get a bit of a feel for how many customers would be interested in this feature. That's really helpful for us. I know there is a suggestion already in there. So just go ahead and vote for that one. It'll help us kind of prioritize in the future, but I can definitely commit to us working on this inside of this year, I would say is probably the most specific I can be at this point, but it's something we want to add for sure.
Sure. Okay. There's a couple of those that have come in. There's one from Rick Alexander. They are currently looking at CMiC as a seamless replacement to their various corporate accounting and various PM platforms that they're currently using. And they would like to know if this is the mobile element that would be included as part of the overall platform stack.
Yeah, Rick, I mean, it's a good question. I would say yes. I mean, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't include that as a, as part of the scope of an implementation. With a potential customer like yourself, usually we would be proposing that you would run both our accounting modules and our field modules, and as part of field, the mobile app is a massive part of that. So I think absolutely this would be the main mobile experience that your users in the field would have to interact with all the construction management type features that we have inside of our field product.
Right, and the next one that's coming is, do we have the ability to load forms for safety inspections and so on? And also, does it track things like good catches, attendance logs, and schedule milestones? This is a question from Andrew.
Okay, yeah, Andrew, it's an interesting question. It's something that we're actually discussing a lot internally. There's an interesting project that one of the other product managers has been spearheading at CMiC, and it's doing more with fillable forms inside of CMiC Field and many of our other modules as well. So we've developed an initial program that will allow you to create your own custom form, but that custom form, it's essentially generating a fillable PDF, but all the data that gets entered into those fillable PDF fields, that gets stored within the CMiC database so you could do reporting on it. So we built that out, and basically you can take that fillable PDF that we generate from the system, and you could put this into any of our document folders on the project. You could store it really anywhere, and once you fill it out, you can submit it, and then that information will go into the system. But we're thinking about taking it a step further and actually adding a dedicated menu item in the field app so that you can kind of host all of your forms in a particular location, because we won't build out screens for everything. And we found that the industry uses fillable forms quite consistently for everything from like SWIP reporting to near miss reports and some of the things that you had mentioned there. So it's definitely something that we're going to be prioritizing this year. The fillable forms is going to be released in patch 14.1 officially, the first version. So we're thinking of actually building out something in mobile to kind of go inside along with that. And that would be kind of a dedicated feature in the menu so that you could pull up all of your fillable forms and you could enter them, and all that data is going to be captured in our database and you can use it for reporting. In the meantime, we have a lot of customers that are storing just regular fillable forms in one of the document folders on their project. So they'll have a document folder on their project called forms or safety forms, whatever it is. And what they'll do is they won't give anybody edit privileges to that folder. What they'll let them do though is they'll open up those forms, they can fill them out in the app, and then they can save them as a new revision, but they can save them as a new document into one of the other folders. So they can have kind of like a completed safety forms folder that they would save all of those completed forms into. And that process works, but we want to try and tighten that up a little bit with like a dedicated feature. If that makes sense, right? So like, yes, you can store the forms in the app, you can fill them out, you can save them as a new document, but we want to kind of create a bit of a tighter workflow with its own menu items specifically dedicated to that feature. So that is something that you should expect to see in the coming months.
Okay. And there's one more question here. I don't know if this was answered, but they're asking, Andrew Hilton is asking, do we have the opportunity to create multiple locations and assign different locations to different pictures and RFIs?
So it's interesting you say that. We added a location code table a while ago, and that was being driven primarily by punch lists and issues. But what we've done very recently is actually added a location column to the document table in CMiC. And that does two things. That allows us to store drawings by building, which is a major feature that people are looking for, so that you could have like 2 A100 floor plans belonging to 2 different buildings under the same project and keep them separate. And make sure the links work and all that kind of stuff. So the location code column in the document table will give us that. But what it also gives us is the ability to tag like photos, which are also documents, by location. So I would say you have a location table now that you can use for punch list items. And you're going to quickly see that location code be used in more and more places. We do anticipate that in the next patch, which is 14.1, we will have that location code added to the document table, and that location code will be available for things like construction drawings, like I mentioned, photos, and really any other document folder that you'd like to identify by location. It'll basically just be another column that you can turn on.
Okay. This is a question regarding duplicating a drawing page. So they're asking, can you duplicate or clone a drawing page where you can capture and maybe you can annotate separate issues and separate areas within the drawing?
So I'm guessing this would be for the purpose of like sending something very specific to an architect for their feedback. So I may want to and I know like in some cases you would like screenshot the drawing essentially, mark it up and like attach it to an email or attach it to an RFI, because we're not really looking for these markups to be added to the published set, but these are more comments as we discuss the scope of an RFI. So I'm kind of assuming that's what it's for. Now in the web, we have this feature. There's a feature called Store Drawing Sheets that's on the Related Objects tab. So when you link an RFI to a drawing sheet, there's a little button that says Store Drawing Sheet inside Related Objects. And what that allows you to do is you can just clone or copy that drawing sheet that the RFI exists on, and you can save it as an attachment to the RFI. And then that gives you the flexibility to go and mark it up however you feel like and not have those markups kind of transfer over to the main set. So it's a really nice feature. Now, we haven't built this out in mobile yet. So it might be an opportunity for us to kind of upvote that feature. Now, in mobile, you could take a screenshot. Like realistically, if you wanted to work around this, you could take a screenshot of the drawing, even zoom in if you want to, and then you save that to your device's camera roll, and you can easily attach that to an RFI, and then you're free to mark it up however you please. So there is I'm going to say kind of a reasonable workaround in mobile already. That's one of the reasons why we hadn't built it out so far. So I'd be interested, shoot me an email if I'm kind of understanding your question correctly, and let me know what you think of that suggestion. And if we need to build like a dedicated button for screenshots that we can then save to an RFI as an example, I'm happy to add that to the list, but that's kind of how we see that particular process going right now.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have time for just one final question here before we wrap up. And this is from Darby again. What platform is supported for the upload of a schedule? And is that something that transfers to the mobile app so that trades and site personnel can view the current and the updated schedule?
Okay, so I'm just going to read the question one more time so I have a second here. So what platform is supported for the upload of a schedule, and is it something that transfers to the mobile app so that trades and their site personnel can view the updated schedule? So, I mean, for those of you that have used CMiC for a little while, you know that we do have an older feature called Scheduling 2.0. We have made a lot of R&D investments in a while, and that particular tool allows users to upload MPP or XCR files, so MS Project or P6 files, and display those schedules within our web application. It's definitely an area that we'd like to invest a little bit more in over time. We're doing some really interesting stuff with earned value and resource planning. It's not something that we have anything on our roadmap for right now to enhance further. And that schedule is kind of bound to the web application. We don't have anywhere that can be viewed in mobile. And it's not something that we're getting a ton of requests for frequently. So I don't think it's something we would commit to for the next little while, but it's definitely an opportunity for you to put that suggestion into user voice and see if other customers would be interested in it. I have no problem investing more into the scheduling tool. We've just been prioritizing other features and other modules for the last little while. So I know it's a bit of a long answer, but I would say in the web application, yes, you could use our scheduling tool, but will remain as is for the kind of foreseeable future in terms of features. You can import MS Project and P6 files there and they can be viewed, but that does not transfer over to the mobile app. So it would have to be viewed through a browser, would be the only option.
All right. Thank you, Ken and Steve. It's 2:46 p.m. EST, and we're just about 1 minute over the scheduled time. A big thank you to all of you who could attend today's session. We hope that you found the content and insights that Ken and Steve delivered today valuable to your business. And also a quick reminder that a recording of this webinar will be made available shortly through a follow-up email communication. That's all we have for today. Stay safe and well, and bye for now.